everyone, Giacomo here from Bloodshot Dawn and Dark End, and today I'm here with my Darkglass t-shirt and the new Neural DSP Darkglass Ultra plugins, the P7K and its counterpart, the Vintage Ultra plugin. So, because I've got lots of Darkglass products myself, the Vintage Deluxe, the B7K, the Vintage Microtubes and the Microtubes 500 head, I wanted to see if the plugins are effectively close to the hardware. So what I did is I'm actually here in the stem session of the new Bloodshot Dawn album Reanimation, and so as you can see here, the bass, the drums, rhythms, etc. And when I recorded the bass for that album, I provided Per Nilsson, that mixed the album, two signals. Completely dry signal that I was recording with my MXR M80 Bass DI Plus with no EQ, so everything flat, no distortion, nothing. So pretty much straight through to my Focusrite Scarlett Solo, and alongside with that kind of signal that was used for some further processing later, I was using my previous chain, my old B3K overdrive, my Kali 76 compact bass compressor, and my old Vintage Deluxe preamp overdrive pedal, and the out from the Vintage Deluxe was the second and main output, main amp output for the recording. So what I've got here is my bass track. So this is the drive and this is the clean that I recorded. And for this demonstration, I took the clean and I copied it 3 times. So this is the this was the clean, and that I actually recorded. And here in this track, I actually tried to emulate what I was doing with the hardware. So let's begin. So this is the B3K and my old chain, the B3K, Kali 76 and Vintage Deluxe real chain. Let's add the drums rhythm. Etc. So the song is called, by the way, Seared Earth. Is the first track, the opener track of Reanimation, the new album from Bloodshot Dawn. And so this is the bass that Per Nilsson did. So this one. So this was kind of his processing, and that of course I like really much, because it cuts through the mix in an amazing way. And so what I try to do is to recreate here the processing that Per did, but using only plugins. So first, let's emulate the real chain, as I said, with the Darkglass plugins and with all plugin base. So let's begin with the completely dry signal. So this is the completely dry signal. Sorry. Let's mute everything. Mute. Perfect. So this is the clean bass. And what I used to do with the B3K, I'm actually using the B7K as a B3K, so just with the drive, with no EQ. So I'm using just a blend level drive section without EQ, and I actually use just the tech and the grunt as I used to do with my old B3K. And as you can see here, the settings are not too crazy because I like to bring with the B3K, and now because before I was using the Vintage Lux with the B3K, and now I do the opposite. I boost the B7K with the Vintage microtubes. So pretty much the same thing, but in a different place. And as you can see here is the drive and the blend. The blend is pretty much on the back of the bass. So the B3K here is just to start bringing the harmonics of my Spector Euro 5 LX to the front of the mix. So let's add the B7K, sorry, the B3K. Okay, so compressor, I'm using the FET emulation of the Logic default compressor to emulate my Origin FX Kali 76 compact bass. And I like to have the compressor after the overdrive, because I like the overdrive to react at my playing, and because Darkglass overdrives are so true to your style and to your playing, I like to compress the signal after the overdrive than before, because if you compress the signal before the overdrive, you're already sending the overdrive a compressed signal as it is, and so actually you have it's less responsive to what you are playing, to your dynamic range and how hard you attack the strings. And plus the Kali 76 has got an amazing input stage, so the preamp is very harmonic, very tasty harmonic wise. So I like to add the harmonics to the B3K and B7K here, and I am trying to use, as you can see here, pretty aggressive ratio, pretty high or low, depend on how you look at the threshold, and yeah, so I crank a little bit the input to have the input stage a little bit saturated, and yeah, so let's hear how also I like the mix control on the Logic's compressor. because I've got pretty much the same on the pedal, so I'm actually recreating what I'm doing in the pedal in the plugin. So let's hear without. Okay, so we are actually getting close, but where the magic happens is on the vintage. So when I kick in the vintage, so let's kick it in and explain you why I like, and then you can see why I like mixing the vintage and the B3K and B7K type of distortion. Without, with. You hear that the vintage opens up the mids, and without adding a little bit of his drive and bringing up some of the low mids around 1K, as I used to have in the pedal. And I keep the high mids flat because on the older version there was the era knob and no high mids control, and the grunt and the attack are on flat. So I am actually because on the pedal again there were no attack and grunt switches. So here is the amp setting that I am emulating, and let's compare the plugin version versus the real version versus the plugin version. So this is the real, this is the plugin. This is the real. Okay, so then using again plugins, just plugins, I actually created here, copying the clean track, scooped bass tone that I use live with the processing of the MXR M80 bass DI. So again, using the Darkglass B3K to add some spice to the sound. Sorry, again, let's mute everything. Guitars and or I forgot to say that I removed something around 900 Hertz because it was kind of not need to hear. So okay, let's move to the scooped tone. So let's begin. I use the same compressor settings for all 3 tracks. And then here as you can see here, I scooped the low mids, and I actually switched off the drive, but still keeping the blend of the 2 drives. And so that's that. And for actually emphasizing the scooping, the mid scoop, I actually added a channel EQ with and without. So let's hear the plugin and the scoop. So as you can see here, I added some presence in the lower register, and I kind of filled the gaps that the tight focused mid focused overdriven tone. I mean, I am actually filling in some of the sub frequencies and the top frequencies that I'm also doing live with the MXR that is just here for the subs to blow and the treaters to cry. So here in the scoop, adding the scoop tone to the mix. Let's hear how it sounds. So B3K plugin and scoop. Also, I like the reamp that Per and Jokke Skog did on the guitars. That, as for me, is really the frequency separation is just fantastic. I mean, listening to just the rhythm guitars and the bass. I mean, it's just, I like it really, really much. And then, as Per did, I actually added a third channel that is, as you can see, really, really low in the overall mix, with a kind of narrow focused, narrow band focused, full on distortion. So I went completely crazy again, blending the B7K and the vintage ultra tone. So let's select just the mute. Let's mute everything back. move this cube, the plugin, the real, and just focus on this track. Again, clean. Then let's go crazy. Same compressor. And here we go. Okay, so this is a kind of pretty much full-on distortion channel that I am blending in to add some giant bite to the sound, as Per did in his processing. So all the 3-track sounds like this. Here is with the plugin, and here is with the real. As you can see, there is very few difference. Again, listening to the sound with the rhythm guitars. I mean, is just feeling, it feels the frequencies so well, and love it. Then to add the final touch, I actually mastered the bass sound with a Pultec emulation of a Pultec EQ of a Pultec emulation of the Logic EQ. So without is kind of tightens everything together. Gives some nice touch. And then the last thing, I added a multiband compressor, the Logic multiband compressor. And so this is my bass, and this is, so to do this last comparison, this is my bass, and this is Per's. So as you can see, the result is pretty close to the original thing with the hardware and per-processing that is, of course, better than mine. Yeah, so I'm really happy of the plugins, and I think that I will purchase it because it's really helpful to create fast mixes without plugging the hardware. And yeah, so congratulations and my best compliments to Darkglass and to the Neural DSP guys, and see you next time.